Welcome, everyone. Really good to see you. Yeah. Hey, Zoomers. They're right here in this camera. You want to say hi at any time? So I'd like to start off with a chant. I don't think we've done it here before. Uh, and I'm going to put it up on the screens. Maybe you'll be able to see it. I'm not sure, but we shall try. Ooh, it's a really nice chant. Yeah, so in the Theravada tradition, this chant is chanted at lots of occasions, especially in transition times. And it's pronounced anicca vata sankara upadavaya damino upajitawa nirujanti tesam vupasamo sukho. Impermanent indeed are all conditioned things. Their nature is to arise and pass away. Having arisen, they cease. Their calming, their stilling is true happiness. Ah, yeah. So I'm just going to start chanting it, and then we're not going to do call and response. I'm just going to start chanting it, and you can join in, and we'll do it multiple times. On the last round, I'll ring the bell. This is in the Pali language, which is the language that the Buddha's teachings were originally uh, written down in. It's related to Sanskrit, but yeah, it's a beautiful language. And again, if you know this, you can chant from the very beginning. But yeah, I'll just begin. And then after that, we'll go into a meditation. Anicca sankara upadaya damino upajitawa nirujanti te sambupasamo sukho. Anicca sankara upadavaya damino upajitawa nirujanti te sambupasamo sukho. Anicca sankara upadavaya damino upajitawa nirujanti te sambupasamo sukho. Anicca sankara upadavaya damino upajitawa nirujanti te sambupasamo sukho. Anicca sankara upadavaya damino upajitawa nirujanti te sambupasamo sukho. Anicca sankara upadavaya damino upajitawa nirujanti te sambupasamo sukho. Anicca sankara upadavaya damino upajitawa nirujanti te sambupasamo sukho. As we settle into stillness, noticing the bell fading, the continuing vibration of the chant in the body, and just how it feels different, perhaps, than before. Just as the chant says that all things are impermanent, the bell fades, the chant fades. This in breath comes in and the out breath leaves. Sounds come, sounds go. Thoughts rise, fall. Sometimes in a flurry, sometimes it's the single thought. The body gets uncomfortable and wants to move. Peace returns. Empires rise, empires fall. Hmm. All things come and go. But notice as we sit here, observing what remains. Can we relax back into the backdrop of our experience here and just inwardly stay with all the arisings and the fallings and the tightness and the releasing and the ache and the relief, contraction and the noticing and the relaxing. All this happening within a field of knowing. What is this knowing? This knowing, this wakefulness, this Buddha. tendency or habit is to get caught up in the things, the impermanent things, the things rising and falling. But what if we began to identify with the field within which all things arise, just as an experiment? You notice your mind contracting around things again. Just take a nice long breath. Mm. If you'd like, while maintaining this relaxed awareness, let's bring in some attention to the space of the heart, noticing the quality of the heart. Just flooding this space, this body, this mind, this awareness with kindness, friendliness. No matter what is here, we can make friends with it all. Stay here nurturing this self-kindness. Or if you'd like to, you can begin to include others. The general radiating out in all directions, or maybe there's a particular person, being, group of beings that you'd like to include. Maybe the people around you in this room or on the Zoom screen. Whatever naturally comes. No need to force. We just include more. That's really what the kindness is. It's including, allowing. Sense of belonging. Dismantle the walls in the heart. Coming back to just feeling the ground beneath you, this earth, this breath. Mm. Zoomers, I'm ringing the bell. Mhm. All right. Thank you all. So we'll take a little break now. 8 minutes. 8 minute break. Let's try to keep this room quiet and silent. So if people want to keep sitting and want to be in a more contemplative place, but if you're out there, feel free to talk and get to know each other. Be sangha. And Zoomers, you can chat on the chat if you want to. Or just get some tea. Right. It's a nice sounding break. Nice to hear people communing. Um, and if you came expecting John, I'm sorry. Um, we switched, so he'll be here next week. Not here, but he'll be on the screen from Thailand. He was doing some traveling, and today wasn't the best day for him, so we switched. So you got me. uh, yeah. So what I wanted to talk about tonight, that it's interesting because our for our newsletters, um, they like the titles of the talks um, by like Thursday. And so that time between Thursday and Monday is a long time for a Dharma teacher. And sometimes you change your mind. So you got to make kind of vague titles. So there's some wiggle room. But this time it's pretty close. So um, the topic was the courage of the open heart, cultivating the mind in the midst of life. And there is this theme, the monthly themes, and you're probably seeing a lot of titles with love, and that's very intentional because uh, I think love's very important right now. Not this kind of generic saccharine love, but like courageous love. And what does love really mean in this world that we're living in right now? Because we often think of this word courage as something pretty dramatic, like you need lots of courage, um, bold action, um, intense. Um, but in the Buddhist path, courage is often much more quiet than that, much more still than that. It looks a lot like staying, being with, not moving. Looks like not turning away. It looks like um, being able to meet what is here just as it is right here and right now. The Buddha said something very direct about this. He said, I do not perceive one thing that leads to such great harm and suffering as an untrained mind. I do not perceive one thing that leads to such great benefit and happiness as a cultivated mind. I do not perceive of one thing that leads to such great harm and suffering as an untrained mind. I do not perceive one thing that leads to such great benefit and happiness as a cultivated mind. It's pretty clear. Pretty clear. Pretty strong statement. Notice he doesn't say that, he doesn't talk about outer conditions, external conditions, creating great harm and suffering, though they do, but that's not what he's saying here. He doesn't mention other people. He doesn't mention the state of the world. The mind, the mind. I do not perceive one thing that leads to such great harm and suffering as an untrained mind. And so tonight I'd like to just reflect on three things: what this means, what it means to cultivate the mind, uh, why this cultivation takes courage, and how metta, loving kindness or loving friendliness, becoming more liking friendliness. Um, that this is the attitude that makes this path possible. Really, like the whole path unfolds with the kind of support of metta, metta. And so cultivating the mind, this word that the Buddha used called bhavana or bhavana. And the way this word is typically translated isn't quite accurate. It's usually translated as meditation. Meditation. And meditation it's not really what we do. So meditation kind of has it's the word is rooted in the Christian tradition. You meditate upon a scripture, or you meditate upon a teaching, or you sit with a teaching, you sit with something. Um, but I think the Buddha is really clear and very specific about this word bhavana, and it actually means cultivation. It means development. So we're cultivating. Actually, here's some traditions. Thinking of the Chan tradition, they don't even use the word meditation. They only use cultivation. Their cultivation practice, um, which I think is pretty cool. And it's a subtle but a really important point that practice is not about fixing a broken self. It's not like a self-improvement project, which it often kind of becomes, and especially in pop culture. And it's not about transcending our lives. It's not about doing something different. It's not about becoming someone else. Uh, it's about training the mind and the heart to relate wisely to whatever we experience. So in the Buddhist tradition, the mind isn't treated as something as a like an abstraction. You know, it's something that's very intimate, very close. It's the place where fear arises. It's the place where love arises. It's the place where confusion arises. It's the place where clarity arises. An untrained mind isn't bad. It's not sinful or wrong. Um, those words don't really exist in Buddhism. It's just reactive. It reacts to things based on conditioning. And so the untrained mind is constantly pulled by habit or motivated by fear or pulled by wanting things to be a certain way or other than the way they are. The cultivated mind, it doesn't eliminate difficulty, but it changes how this difficulty is held. So how we are with difficulty. That's probably something, if you're a practitioner, something that you kind of noticed just kind of happening. I know I noticed that within myself. I wasn't, once I started meditating and sitting and became committed, I just noticed myself not getting as bothered by things. Just kind of naturally happened, you know, that things weren't affecting me as much. And this cultivation happens slowly. Sometimes it can be difficult to notice. Uh, it's like tending a forest or tending a garden. You know, it's only when we leave it and come back that we notice something, or we're with something every day, and then we uh, take some time away from it, and then we come back. We're like, wow, um, look how much this changed. Or look, we see somebody, and then after a while, we see them after they've made some changes in their lives. Like, wow, you're a completely different person. Um, and so that this tending of the forest, you're gradually creating conditions to cultivate something that's much more skillful, much more able to be with difficulty. Nothing can be forced. We can't engineer. We can't make something happen. Yeah, yeah. In this, you know, in this garden, we protect what's vulnerable. We remove what inhibits growth. We learn to trust the natural processes. This is bhavana, this is cultivation. It takes patience. And if you've ever grown something, you know this. And even that term growing something, we don't really grow anything. If you put a seed into the ground, you don't grow it. You create the conditions around it to allow the natural process to unfold. Yeah. So you make sure it has the right sun and has the right water and the perfect soil, and you love it, you tend to it, and it naturally grows. So it's all about creating, we don't make the seed grow. And once it's a plant, then we make sure it has all the proper conditions and it's well looked after and taken care of. Yeah. This is the same. This is how our practice goes. This is how the Buddha talked about it. You know, you create these particular conditions around yourself through ethical living and these particular practices and moving towards what's wholesome and skillful. Create the conditions for awakening, and awakening just begins to happen. Yeah, on its own. We don't make it happen. And this takes courage. It takes patience because it means we have to stop running. It means we have to spend time. Yeah. The untrained mind is always looking for an exit. And you probably notice this in your lives. So, distraction. We have most of us have a distraction machine in our pocket at all times called a phone. But all the times we're distracted by various things and we're almost looking for distraction. There's sometimes this this maybe like unconscious motivation to be distracted, looking for distraction, looking for certainty. And we chanted this chant in the beginning, everything's impermanent. So looking for something in that which is uncertain is bound to lead to suffering. Blame. Blame is a big one. Yeah. Untrained mind's always looking for an exit. Blame. We put our responsibility on somebody else, or we numb, or we try to fix, or we judge, or we compare. We do all of these things. This is what the uncultivated mind does, to try to exit out of responsibility for cultivation. The cultivated mind learns to stay with discomfort without blaming or trying to fix or comparing, yeah, or distracting. Stay with discomfort without collapsing. Stay with uncertainty without hardening, looking for certainty. Stay with joy without clinging. And that takes a lot of strength. That takes a lot of courage. And the more we practice in this way, the stronger we get. And we build that practice muscle. And it just kind of becomes automatic. It becomes something that's part of our lives, where life kind of becomes this practice of staying with, of being with. And so we can put this simply as freedom doesn't come from arranging life perfectly. It comes from understanding the nature of the heart. Yeah. I use this quote all the time, probably every other time that I talk up here, from Ajahn Chah. If you let go a little, you will have a little peace. If you let go a lot, you will have a lot of peace. If you let go completely, you will have complete peace. Your struggle with the world will have come to an end. And so this letting go, it doesn't mean withdrawing from life. Means being right in the middle of it. It means the releasing the reflex to fight against our experience. And that requires a lot of courage. This is the courage of opening the heart. Because as much as we try to move forward by moving around life, the only way to the other side is directly through. And we've probably all learned that lesson in many, many ways. I know I have. But this important question arises, though. If we're going to stay with experience, especially with difficult experience, how do we do that without becoming hard, protected, overwhelmed, or burned out? That can happen. And the answer that the Buddha gives is metta, loving kindness, having this attitude of care and understanding. And we could say that metta is the willingness to remain present without abandoning ourselves or others because we care. And so the care is the motivator. And so metta is not sentimentality, it's not passive, it's it's not pretending everything is okay. You know, it's the courage to again to be with. And so that this open heart, it's not, it doesn't mean that the heart is undefended. It means that the heart doesn't close down when there's fear. Metta says, this belongs, this can be known, this doesn't have to be pushed away for me to survive. And in daily practice, this looks very ordinary. It's meeting restlessness without self-judgment, meeting grief without rushing it. It means meeting anger without feeding it or suppressing it. And so these little things that aren't so little when we sit on our cushion. Yeah. Or the little things when we're out in the world, waiting in line, all these little things that we think are very insignificant, or all the various things that happen when you're driving a car. And there's other people driving cars too, and all those things that happen, like people cutting you off or running the red light or whatever it is. You feel the arising of the tightening, and that being with, allowing space around it, and then watching the process subside. Everything's impermanent. The more we can be with those things, that's cultivation. That's building the strength, even in those really small things. And without the metta, our practice, our sitting practice, our meditation practice, our mindfulness practice, it becomes very, very tight, becomes goal-oriented. It becomes critical, self-critical. It becomes this project that the self is doing. Yeah. Yeah. With metta, we learn that it's safe to be honest. It's safe to be honest. That's the direct way through. Be honest with ourselves. And one of the really cool things about this practice, and it's uh, kind of a paradox, is that the more fully we inhabit this life, this waking life, without trying to transcend this life, the more clearly we see what's beyond it. That's what's really interesting. The more fully we embody this body, this mind, this conditioning, the more fully we're here with what is, the more fully we see the bigness of life. And so this bhavana, it's not designed to trap us in our experience. it actually clarifies our experience. It gives us courage in our experience without running away. And from this clarity, we see beyond it. Yeah, that's really important. Much of our spirituality is we think is trying to get somewhere else. This is exactly what the Buddha was teaching within this environment where this transcendent out of this body was kind of the main practice. He did it for 7 years in the forest by trying to subdue this body, and by subduing this body and torturing this body, there was this belief that you could transcend it. Yeah. And so we're not looking for this blissful, big experience. Like that's experience. We have those experiences, but that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for a much more embodied, intimate experience with this life as it is right here and right now. And this is what we awaken through this body, this body. Yeah. So we come back. One of my teachers calls it the descending journey. We bring ourselves back, the descending journey. Almost sounds sacrilegious. Uh, and as this mind becomes steadier and kinder, and we begin to, we begin to notice something that doesn't go. And this is what I was trying to point to in the meditation. This other kind of subjective reality of that's different than the arising and falling. There's this knowing quality of our experience. There's something that's not owned, that's transpersonal, that's not shaken. You know, that's you notice that when I'm in fear, there's an aspect of me that doesn't experience that fear. When I'm angry, there's a part of my experience, this knower knows anger, but it's not angry itself. There's this other reality that we're pointed to when we see things much more honestly. And this comes to this cultivation. Yeah, not through rejecting the world. It's discovered by training the mind within the world, breath by breath, moment by moment, response by response, interaction by interaction. Yeah. So liberation isn't somewhere else. It's not out there somewhere. If we think that, it will always be out there somewhere. Yeah, it's not. It reveals itself right here through careful, through loving attention, right here, right now. It can't happen anywhere else. There's nowhere else it can happen. Yeah. So liberation, the Buddha talked about liberation. Liberation is found not separate from this world, but within it and through it. Yeah. And every day this world challenges us, every single day. And so for us as a sangha, this really matters. This is what we're doing here. This is what sangha is all about. Yeah, is supporting each other in this cultivation. We live in incredibly complex times, as Jen pointed to in the very beginning. Most people feel stretched, concerned, overwhelmed. Um, and the invitation is here to not let it harden the heart. Yeah. Not to disengage, not to collapse. Yeah. The invitation is to cultivate, yeah, to be with, to train the mind in steadiness so that we can see what's here with clarity, to train the heart in kindness, to meet this world with an open, courageous uh, presence. Yeah. That's what the world needs from us. And you're starting to kind of see it in the world, the response of love from people. You know, I was watching some of the interviews with some of the Olympians who are kind of going back and forth with the government a little bit. And the words you hear them saying, today I was listening to somebody, she was saying, in my life, I want to lead with love. I want to lead with compassion. And then you'll hear another Olympian say, I want to live in a world that's kind. Like this is coming. This is the response to this hatred. You know, and the Super Bowl halftime show last night, giant banner, that giant huge banner that said, "There's the only thing more powerful than hate is love." It's like huge. This thing, beautiful. I mean, beautiful. Like it's coming. It's here, and that's the proper response. Is to the Buddha said hatred will never be defeated by hatred. Only through non-hatred, only through love will hatred be defeated. The Buddha said this. This is the message. This is how we meet the world. This is how we meet life. Listening. I was listening to the monks who are going to be arriving in BC in the next few days, talking, and he's like, you see all these videos of these big crowds meeting us, and we're blessing them, and we're trading flowers, but he said just as much, giant pickup trucks will come up next to us and spew hatred and insults and he's like, my only response is, may you be kind, may you be happy, may you be well, may you be peaceful. And they're vulnerable. They're these monks that are just, some of them walking barefoot in the freezing cold, or they talk about how some trucks will pull up next to them and stop, and then hit their accelerator, and all this black smoke will come out and choke them. And, you know, may you be kind, may you be peaceful, may you be happy. Yeah. Hatred motivates. It's like, if we meet hatred with hatred, it just fuels the hatred. Yeah. So how can we be more loving, more kind, more patient? Yeah. And that's what this cultivation is about. That's what the cultivation is. And each time my knee hurts, or like a thought comes up, or I'm sitting there steady and I'm just with it, or a difficult emotion arises, or somebody in front of me in line at the grocery store, you know, is in a really bad mood and they're taking it out on everybody else. Each one of those moments is a cultivation. Yeah. Each time I don't react to that, when I meet that with love, that rewires this brain. Yeah. And so I become love. I become Dharma. My reflexive response becomes love. It becomes automatic. Yeah. That doesn't mean we don't say no. And it doesn't mean that love and compassion aren't courageous, like aren't fierce. It's fierce sometimes. Sometimes there's a line drawn in the sand. There's boundaries. There are these things that we have to say no to. But how we move through the world, really matters. Shantideva in the really love Shantideva. Uh, had this really great illustration in the or has this really great illustration in the Bodhisattva's way of life. Um, he said it's like walking around barefoot and stepping on thorns, and then your reaction is, I want to cover the entire world in leather, so I'll never step on another thorn ever again. He said, or you can have really good shoes. But I think it's probably a better idea. So this is how we take care of ourselves. We cultivate this. And in so doing, we take care of one another. Yeah. And it's not by having all the answers, but by showing up with a cultivated mind and an open heart in all situations. You never know when the opportunity to change somebody else's heart is there. Again, the Buddha is very clear. An untrained mind leads to suffering. A cultivated mind leads to freedom. And this cultivation, as I said in the beginning, is not dramatic. It's quiet. It's patient. It's relational. It's the courage to stay. It's the courage to feel. It's the courage to love without a guarantee that you'll get anything in return. Yeah. And from that courage, something beyond fear gradually reveals itself, not apart from this life, but directly through it. Yeah. And I want to close out here with this quote that I really love from Ajahn Mahabua, who was a contemporary of Ajahn Chah. He says, when dukkha stops, nothing remains. All that remains is entirely pure awareness. It is the purity of this chitta, this heart, this very heart, mind, this knowing heart that's actually fundamentally pure, unassailed, nothing wrong. If you want, you can call it nibbana, but that's just a name. It doesn't have a name. All things are silent before this. Words cannot describe it. Yeah. Yeah. Let's just pause here for a moment. Thank you for your patience and for listening. Yeah. So we have a little time here for some questions. So I wonder, or comments. Doesn't have to be a question. It can be a comment or an insight or a rebuttal.
This is Jen in the meditation hall. So raise your hand if you'd like to say something. I'll pass the mic, and that way the people on Zoom can hear what we're saying in here. And if you're on Zoom, please raise a real hand or a virtual hand, and we'll see it, and we'll call on you too.
And if not, we'll just cultivate.
Okay. Question here. Can you start with your name and hold it close?
I am Allison Carlson.
Hi.
So you said, the Buddha said that a mind that we don't train creates suffering. We are born to suffer. So without cultivating our mind, then we come to a place where we have monkey mind all over the place. So I just wanted to say, I really liked how you talked about how we don't grow the plant, we just plant the seed. But in ourselves, we have to really work on that seed we're planting in ourselves and cultivate all that love for ourselves.
Mm.
And I have just learned to really do that.
Mm.
And in this world that we're in right now, and how difficult it is sometimes, something that I want to ask you is if we just create a space for the things that really bother us and don't have so much reaction, is that still cultivating? Or am I avoiding instead of just looking at it and not having a reaction because it's hard?
You mean practicing like conversation and a safe
Something
space?
on the news,
Yeah.
and then I see it and I notice I'm constantly having reactions, and I'm trying really hard not to do that. So
Yeah.
so what is your advice to cultivate the non-reaction in a very reactionary world?
Yeah, I think that's probably pretty skillful. I mean, the Buddha asked us to be out in the world, and we're going to be seeing things that aren't things that we necessarily agree with. One of my friends actually does a class periodically called Mindfulness in the News. And so she in the news, so you actually like read articles and you or she gives you something to read or you watch a news story or something and then you talk about it. So it's very similar to what you were talking about. And she says it's been incredibly helpful and really beautiful. But I think that's a practice to be able to, you know, most people their problem is over consuming, so we have to watch that. But if we limit ourselves to a certain period of time a day and we go on the website or we watch the news or something, we watch, just really watch how you're reacting. Um, and that's a cultivation for sure. Because we ideally we'd be able to watch it and have compassion and and uh, and use that as a tool for awakening, which all things really are tools for awakening. But I think it's probably a really skillful thing that to be able to have a gathering to be able to talk about those things. And I know there's some organizations. I know there's a chapter here where they try to have these conversations in public, where it's two people of opposing views sitting down and trying to not be reactive around a conversation, so they can really, you know, try to understand one another. Because if we're just arguing, our nervous system gets involved, and then we just start to get into the fight or flight, and then it becomes incredibly unproductive. And so we just cultivate the opposite of what we want. So, yeah, I think it's a skillful thing to do. Long story short. Yeah. I like to practice it, um, yeah, like, you know, really paying attention to where my attention goes and what's activated and where I feel it in my body and what it brings up in a conditioning and my conditioning and all of these things. I think it's really important. Yeah. Yeah, there's just a comment here. Yeah, news is tough. It's a black hole that and I also think it's really important to stay uh in touch with there's a lot of the positive things that are happening in the world too. There's like positive news channels, and there are a lot of really incredible things happening, in the world. Not to turn away from all the horror around us, but to just give some perspective that there are really incredible people doing incredible things around this world. Um, yeah.
Okay.
Hello, am I on?
You are.
I am on. Okay. I'm Larry. And I would suggest that paying attention is actually becoming an observer of what's happening and to be detached, be a detached observer of what's actually happening. You know, everything is impermanent. The past is the past. It's never going to change. The future has not actually occurred yet. So the only thing that's happening is right now at this very moment.
Mm.
And at that very moment, it's past, it's impermanent, it's moved on. To an example is possibly a very visceral reaction, anger. You know, anger can just really overcome you. But if you can stand back from your anger and you can look at it and you can go, oh, I'm angry. I'm angry. Why am I angry? You know, what is causing this? You can actually observe that anger. Same thing with uh, being happy. What is being happy? It might just be grasping, right? Am I just grasping at something because I think I'm happy? So, you know, in my practice, uh, I look at everything as impermanent. Everything passes, everything changes. And if you wait, it will change.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Adam. This is Teresa. I am finding it very difficult to meet the hate and injustice in the world with love. I I am wondering how to do that because what I really want to do is to change the people who are sending out the hate and the anger and the injustice. And it feels like if I'm sitting here with love, it's passive. So I don't know if you have any ideas about this.
Do you think you can change them?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you think you can change these people?
Do I think I can? No, I don't think I can. Just the way I don't think I'm not going to be changed.
So so what better thing is there to cultivate than love and compassion? Because if you're just sitting there and you can't do anything about the situation, you're just growing frustrated and, unskillful emotion within yourself. And they're in a way they have power over you. So another Shanti Deva, because I like Shanti Deva, he says, if there's something you can do about a situation, do that thing. And then there's no reason to stress over it. If there's not anything you can do about that particular situation, there's still no reason to stress because you can't do anything about it. And so it's about learning our capacity, what we can do, and then trying to understand conditioning, change what we can change in our sphere of influence, and then cultivate as much kindness and care and love as possible. Because those people have that power over us, and those feelings are not doing anything to them, just damaging ourselves. It's like I think the Dalai Lama talks about. It's like, oh, I forget what wise teacher said this. It's like swallowing poison and expecting the other person to die. You know.
Thank you. It's just very, very sad.
It is. And it's really important to feel that sadness and to also really contemplate the first noble truth. To really contemplate the first noble truth because it's incredibly, incredibly true and incredibly deep. We think it's like this. Sometimes it's like, oh, that's the beginning. No, it's the beginning and it's also the end. It's like that teaching, Four Noble Truths, is we never get past it, So really trying to understand dukkha. What is dukkha and how does it arise? Yeah, really
Thank
important.
you.
Yeah. Okay, so it's 32 after, so we need to begin to close up here. Let's just pause. Ah, hmm. The beautiful thing about this practice is that we have this ability because of anicca, because of change, we too can change. We can cultivate, we can awaken, our hearts can expand, we can become more loving and caring, and we can create positive change in this world. And as long as we're cultivating, what else can we do? If we change this heart, expand this heart. So feeling the joy in that. The joy of gathering together, the Sangha, the Dharma. And being Sangha, we help cultivate one another. And then we also support one another with care and kindness. And in this theme of care and kindness, I just wanted to read some names from people who have either passed away or are struggling, who are either in this Sangha or connected to people in our Sangha. And this list lives out in the lobby if you have someone you would like to include. And so I'll just read these names. Richard Feldstein, Paul Godwin, Mary Helen Fine, Ondine and Elliot, Colleen Pittman, Drea and Marcia, Nancy, Alexandria, Brittany, Alexandria, Rami Fisher, Ross, Lucia and Jack, Lisa Hart, Dinesh, Michael Quinn, Stu Clancy, Virginia, Sterling, Malika, Brandy, Lex, Steve Armstrong, Kamala Masters, Annabelle Cormack, Noel Kyra, Carol, all undocumented folks, Tiffany Roberts, Alexandria, Bronwyn, Jacia Ross, Bill Bott, Yui, Alexandria, the Byers family, Joe. These members of our Sangha we hold in our hearts with care and kindness. And we are cultivation. lead to awakening for ourselves and all beings. May all beings everywhere, in all directions, without exception, be free from suffering and the conditions of suffering. Thank you all so much for your attention and kindness and for being here and for your practice. Yeah.